In this video, we're going to be looking at actually proving parts of triangles are congruent by using CPCTC. So here with these proofs, we're really just doing a continuation of what we did with all of our other proofs in proving two triangles are congruent. So our first step always with these proofs is we're going to prove the two triangles are congruent. And then we're just basically adding in a last step to say, well, since these two triangles are congruent, these two parts, these angles or sides are congruent by CPCTC. So looking at this first one, I'm given that AB is congruent to BC and AD is congruent to DC. And so I see those already marked here. So in this step, I was given two sides. And then looking at this triangle, I see they both share a side. They both share this side BD. And I know by the reflexive property that BD is congruent to BD. So I have a third side here. And that was by the reflexive property. So I have three sides congruent. So now I can say that these two triangles are congruent by side, side, side. So now here's where it's important to again be writing those correct congruency statements. So I'll start with triangle ABD. Well, angle A I see is between the 1 and 2 tick marks, and I see that matches up with C. And then they both share the side of BD, so this is going to be BD. And now for my last step, I can say that therefore angle A is congruent to angle C, and that is by CPCTC. Okay, let's look at another one. So here I am told that PR bisects QPS and angle QRS. And so remember bisect, that means it's cutting these two angles in half. So that means for it bisecting QPS that these two angles are congruent. So I have that angle QPR is congruent to angle SPR. And it also bisects QRS. So that means that angle QRP is congruent to angle SRP. This is by definition of angle bisector. So I have two angles here. And then now looking at this, I again see that these two triangles both share a side. So I know that PR is congruent to PR. So I have a side, and that is the reflexive property. So I have an angle, I have a side. So now I know that these two triangles are congruent. However, I do need to pay attention to the order that these are congruent. I see that my side is an included side. It's between my congruent angles. So that means that this is going to be congruent by angle, side, angle. So now I need to figure out my congruency statement. So I'm going to have QPR here. Well, I see that Q clearly matches up with angle S. So it's going to start with S. And then they both share that side PR. So this is going to be SPR. And now that I have that these two triangles are congruent, I can then say that my corresponding sides are congruent. So PQ is therefore congruent to PS. That is by CPCTC. Okay, let's look at one more. So here I'm given that NO is parallel to MP. So I'm going to go ahead and draw those arrows in. NO is parallel to MP. And I'm also given that angle N is congruent to angle P. So I'm given an angle here. Now, since these two sides are parallel, I know that parallel lines cut by transversal have pairs of angles that are congruent. And I see that I have interior angles here that are congruent. So I can say that angle NMO is congruent to angle POM. And that is by the alternate interior angles theorem. So I have another angle that's congruent. And then now, again, this one pops up a lot. I see that they're both sharing the same side. And so I know by the reflexive property that MO is congruent to MO. And that's by reflexive. So now I have that these two triangles are congruent. And I see that the order that they go in is angle, angle, side. So that side is not included between the two angles. So this is going to be by angle, angle, side. And to write that congruency statement, I see I'm going to have NMO is congruent to triangle POM. And so you'll see that these ones didn't match up in the order they're in. This one I had to go by how my angles lined up. So I see that these, it goes N, M, and then O. And then here, the P had also the one arc mark, the O had the two, and then M. Now, since I have congruent triangles, the corresponding parts are also congruent. And that is by CPCTC.